Hi everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the live people. I hope you're doing fine. I hope everybody's having a good time. I am kind of off camera, but I don't want to move the camera too much because today it's kind of like we're chilling a lot. I should actually move that camera, right? I should. Let's do that. I kind of fired up it all here so that you can see basically what I'm gonna do, which I don't even know. But what I hope is that there's a lot of people doing nothing in this dull, cloudy afternoon. So I'm gonna reset that camera. Probably. Do we want to do that? It's risky, right? It's risky business, but let's do that. Before we start, there's no real start. There's it's not really that complicated. But I think it's this control here. Oh yes. There we go. So what are we doing today? What are we doing today, people? We're just noodling, believe it or not. And I just put the multi-poly. I said monopoly because I'm thinking monopoly. I just put it down here, and I'm just going to probably play this in the most unorthodox way possible, because I'm gonna play in a wrong way that you should never ever play in. Okay, I am basically resting my elbows on my knees and I'm playing the keyboard. So it is a completely wrong way to play that, because your weight will not translate to the instrument and you're playing with your fingers and you're not playing with your shoulders, forearms, arms and fingers and stuff like that. But we're here to bend the rules, and boy am I bending today. For sure. Don't take it the wrong way though, because still YouTube. Last time I think we got banned for some reason. But it's still very early. There is no reason to rush. And we are just completely enjoying some of the sounds that come out of the multi-poly now that my masterclass has finally come out. Okay. So what we're doing here is basically everything non-serious that the masterclass actually takes very seriously, because it's just a beautiful, beautiful instrument. Now, in the last 6 months or so, I've played the Modwave Mark II, I've played the Wave State, I've played the Multi-Poly, and I have my KORGs as well from a little bit early, 20, 30, 40 years earlier than that. But the whole series at KORG is just unbelievably good. So the Multi-Poly certainly excels at that kind of like, analog modeling that goes a little bit beyond what the others do, because it's called upon doing virtual analog, right? So I was playing like, this is approaching off-world. It's one of my favorite patches in here. It's got these modulation knobs that do texture, anima, sizzle, redux, and detune FG plus. And the way I said it just sounds unbelievable. I mean, it's just so organic. This is not, by the way, a patch I've made. I don't want you to believe that I've made something like this for the stream or for anything else. I could have, but I didn't. This is just a stock preset of this beautiful synthesizer. And when it's called Approaching Off-World, so it's kind of nice. The texture that you can get from the mod knobs is just unbelievable. It seems like on this specific patch, for example, it doesn't do that much, but it does. And you can make these brassy or you can make these darker. I had an initial setting, you heard it, that was very dystopian somehow. So let's try and get this to like 0. But if we go texture and anima and we keep the sizzle and detune down, being here with the Atom speakers that are completely singing this patch, the amount of lows is unbelievable. And I would think that this is all classic oscillators. It's using 4 oscillators with just 1 layer. So we've got detuned saw, triangle, another detuned saw that's kind of pulse modulating, and it's 4 detuned saws pretty much. But it's just so good. And it's using the SEMP, which is a beautiful filter, but we could change that as well. We could even, for example, make it into a more kind of like a percussive kind of sound. Let's try this. Do we want to change that? It's such a shame to do it though. Oh, there's ring modulation as well. It's a patch we can learn from for sure. Let me try and see what's happening here on the filter envelope. So this is layer based, and I think for the amp as well, yeah, we've got this kind of crescendo thing. Feel the octaves, how they change, how they translate to this beautiful setting here. Let me just take a look at the chat because I might be missing stuff around. It's just so good. So nice. And the filter itself, I want to switch from, it's using 2 in parallel, which are 2 SEMP. I want to put them in series, and I want to disable the second one, and I want to just try this one. If you've tried the Monopoly, if you've ever played the Monopoly, you know what 4 oscillators on something that is, X modded, whatever you want to say right now or before, it's just so good. Now, as you can hear, it's not really closing, because if we go to the levels and pans, we're gonna see that there's some AB. So we can send the 4 oscillators of each layer into a blend of the A or B filters. And because B is in series, but it's bypassed, we're going through across after filter A, and so we're getting out without that. So I'm gonna put all to 0. I think I'm still passing through something. Let me just double check. There might be, it's probably the noise and ring. Well, no, they're going here. So it's a stereo mix and filters. That's true. Why is it passing through it? It sounds really good though. Hear the sort of change? This is unbelievable. Let me hear the oscillators by themselves. Okay. Let me try a monopoly. Okay, let's roll with these. I don't know what to think about that. It's just unbelievably good. That's what it is. And what it's going to stay at. Let me try and do a little bit more of a plucked kind of thing. Okay, now we go to page 2. Okay, there's a little bit, okay, curve for the attack. I want a curve for the decay. It's hard to see, but it's kind of getting to a more kind of logarithmic curve. So this is 10. Hear how it's choked, right? While 0. Here I kind of like it better linear. Although I think if we go 3-3. Arpeggiate that as well. Let's do 8 notes. Okay, so we're not gonna sort, and we're syncing notes. We're doing 1 octave, and I'm gonna latch. Let's try that. I mean, this is just what we've done. Approaching off-world, starting up. That's 4 oscillators. We just changed it from the pad it was to something completely different. And I'm amazed at the level of musicality that the filters do have when they are not just because you're controlling them, but because they are fed with different kind of information. And it's I understand what I'm saying is kind of like cliche, right? Well, yeah, you know, that's kind of an analog synthesizer. Well, this is not an analog synthesizer. That's the thing. There's no broken parts that were fixed roughly that now kind of sound different from how it was. There's nothing aging in itself. There's emulations of, but it's just when you had keyboards for some time, you know that there's kind of like sweeping the filter gives you that idea of how it is. But there's more to a filter than just that. It's how it's fed by the different sources, which really changes. And you might say, well, you fit it different oscillators, it's gonna sound different. It's the subtle nuances of the same oscillators that are floating around just because this one has a tiny little bit of pulse width modulation and the other ones are static, but there's detuning, there's voice drifting, which is very important as well. We got variations. See here, for example, this patch does not use pitch variation. So the voice cards are very, very strict, something you would never have on an original, monopoly or Poly6, for example. There's no drift whatsoever, but if you notice, the mod effects is a chorus template. And so it's a modern chorus that I've tweaked to like 25%, but it's there, And so because of the chorus going into the delay, which is off-world pad, which you can borrow and use for any other patch you want, it's kind of blending in how it should be. That's a mini template, it's kind of like, it's a simple patch somehow, but it sounds really good. Absolutely really good. So I know, some people say, well, it's just a synthesizer. Yeah, for sure. It just sounds unbelievably good. So I want to try and find some other pads, actually. I have no idea where I'm going to go here. I mean, what? Do you want me to say? Like, this is unbelievable. It sounds really good. There's few things that can go wrong, and I love how kind of organic some patches are. You let this one go, hear all that percussion. This is a stock patch, and I gotta say that there's a lot of presets that have been bound to this sort of organic off-tempo, free tempo kind of vibe on the synthesizer, which isn't something you find very often, and I think has defined some of the most recent soundtracks. We were talking about amazing, movies like Tenet. I mean, the soundtrack's full of these arrhythmic kind of free tempo percussive instruments that are really synthesizer based, right? And I mean, this is what it is. This is just unbelievably good. And whoever programmed these, I know that there's so many people that program sounds for these synths, knew this, and it feels amazing. And it takes you 2 seconds to kind of modify it. We got pitch arc, oscillator filter arc, and effects. So let me try effects, for example. Hear how dry it can be in your face, so like completely 100% at the touch of a button. So here they prefer to dial in effects. That's okay. We'll like that. Let me try pitch arc. I'm not gonna say anything else. I'm just gonna play. And if you notice, there's no bounce because I'm letting go of the key before the sort of like percussive sequence starts, and that's fantastic. It's just that delay time gives you that opportunity. Hear how dynamic this thing is. It's unbelievable. Hey everybody, welcome. So let me try kind of like a little bit concentrate this filter, for example. Okay, so this is getting into soundtrack territory. I mean, that was soundtrack territory. I'm not kidding. But it's kind of like more atmospheric. So let me see what's going on with the envelopes. I'm thinking could be the envelopes, right? So the filters, there's just one filter here on the multi-poly. It's one layer, one sound and noise oscillator. I mean, people, this, I hadn't even noticed this. It's just one oscillator on one layer. That's it. And then the effects, what is it? Like a chorus, a tape echo, and preset arc and bounce for the reverb EQ. Unbelievably cool. But let me see. Okay, this is getting here. It's not pitching. So it's, where is the sound kind of growing from? Could it be the set lists maybe? We'll try that. See, I've closed this in. Okay, this is opening a lot, but I don't see traces of these in the envelope. So I'm gonna take a look at the LFOs. Okay, what is this going on from? Is it this one? Well, the attack here is really. So we gotta take a look at the modulations because now I'm getting like super curious. So what a filter cut off. Oh, okay, there's a mod processor being used. Okay, so it's a mathematical processor that is just taking something and probably adding things. Let me see the Proj Mod 2. It's a scale on the filter A LFO on the step sequence B. Okay, so it's scaling up through the filter A LFO as an input. So it was kind of an LFO thing. What is it, the filter A LFO? Okay, so it says so down, so it makes sense. But it's stepping the sequence B here. Man, this is gonna be nice. Okay, so let me go motion sequence. Let me see lane B. Lane B has 3 steps and it's a value of 0, 0, 100, but it's being, they're moving through probably. It's not actually happening. It's not really that. I'm curious now. What is, let me see, mod, okay. So, well, this is certainly doing that, but it's not this one we had. Step sequence A. I mean, this is all through the motion sequencing that this is happening. But anyway, it's beautiful. It's so atmospheric and the effects are unbelievably good. Jumpstart, can you hear that? No? Not yet? Oh, okay. Absolutely. So, just a sec. Do I have to turn it on? You heard it now. Oh, you did? No, wait. Yeah, all right. I was just checking volumes because, you know, sometimes the patches are too loud. It takes it 3 minutes to just jump up. That's the thing. Just because of how I edited it. If we go back to what it is, arc and bounce, it's a little bit easier to play. And Thanks for the heart and the 100. I was saying, because you probably jumped into the stream when I had the patch just completely broken out. I was like, all right, probably this is not playing or transferring to the stream. It just took it 2 minutes to get in. But this is how it starts. And that's how I got it, just got Arc and Bounce. And you see, I'm kind of playing it by holding some of the notes down. The envelopes keep staying until you have a note down. When I let go, the instrument, the note itself is no longer playing. So when you have such a preset, something, somebody has programmed this way, you really have this kind of a musical instrument approach. And again, it's a one layer thing with one oscillator going through tons of modulations to generate this. And when you, which I haven't done, when you hold a note down enough, hear what it does. Hear how complex that is. So this can easily be everything you want. Maybe a G sharp, say it's a soundtrack. And I'm saying this because it's actually G sharp on an instrument that we mentioned before. So, Nolan kind of stuff, futuristic things, people going forward and backwards. But if you don't play that way, it's just kind of a very, very delicate organ type. And you can keep one note down. I have no sustained pedal, and that note it's kind of singing more while the rest is going a little bit more through its spaces. Or you can play in time, obviously. And one instrument, one patch, one of the many that are here that I got through where was I? I was probably into pads, actually. This falls into pad. And there's chaos physics I haven't even touched. It is cool, right? It's just, I gotta be honest, when I got the multi-poly, I was not as excited as I am now that I have covered it, that there's a masterclass out and everything, that I've taken time to learn it, use it in some music I wrote. I was more fascinated by the mod wave approach, which is a synth. I still have it right there, and it sounds unbelievably good. But what I realized is that in the setup I have, because I have a Moog, I have a couple sequential, I have a Poly 6, Nord leads, I have a bunch of synths. The multi-poly kind of initially felt like it was overlapping with the instruments that I have in my room. And for that reason, it wasn't that it was not exciting. It was that it was kind of feeling like it was mimicking stuff I already had, sort of like in the original state. But there's the real singing part of the multi-poly is when the KORG approach to modulation kind of takes its air. It just kind of spread its wings. And these are the presets that really define this instrument, because it's not wavetables. It's not necessarily XY modulations or things that are moving. It's not drones. It's still classic subtractive synthesis that is being put into an organic kind of organism, a biological entity somehow sometimes. Am I making sense? Hopefully a little bit. The mod wave and the wave state that are right behind you here on my right have more of these completely wavetable based, I wouldn't say droney, but they're a wavetable synthesizer coming from the wave station the core had. It's just, it's a thing, it's its own thing. And it's a little bit more abstract. And while I have on the Prophet 12 some wavetables and things like that, there's actually a unique spirit to the mod waves. So the more I kept playing the multi-poly, the more I was like, wow, this thing it's got a voice of its own. These are real musical instruments. So I have no idea what we're going to do here. I mean, there's tons of sounds I haven't played for sure. So it's have you tried the quantize operator at all? Bet you can do glissando sweeps with it. Love it. I have one myself. I think it's great. Very powerful on controls. All right, congrats. You have a good one. I did some. I'm thinking the quantize is what I've used on the mod processors episode on the masterclass. Because what you can do with the quantize that I find absolutely amazing is, as you know, you might have an LFO. Let's see what sound I have here. Okay, let's try and play this. So I have, for example, this one, and we could filter this with, I don't even know if this is any playing at all. Let's try that and do like a quarter note or something like. Okay. And we try and kind of give it. I don't think filter A is doing a lot here. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna keep this sound just to play afterwards. I don't want to do it. But for example, if we go to the filter B that we're not using, so we can sacrifice this. You see, for example, you've got step, right? Which is like a 4, it's a 6. You got a step saw from 6. I think it's 12s sometimes as well here. Oh no, okay, well there's a 6 for example. But if you quantize this, we can take, let me see. Okay, for example, and we go mod proch and we take I don't even know if it's used here. Let me see if it's somewhere around. Layer B's morph. Okay. Oh, it's being used on the chaos whatever. Let's try that because that's interesting. Okay, is it holding maybe? No, but it's orbiting slow. Okay, so because of the changes I've done, obviously it's kind of repitching itself, which I kind of like. But the mod pros with quantize basically allows you to set even the LFOs as being stepped in a way that, as you know, they're not made available as waveforms, but by quantizing them, you get these weird feeling of having a waveform that wants to go in a specific smooth way, but all of a sudden it's kind of quantizing itself. And for that reason, whatever parameter you're automating or modulating feels like artificial, but it's still going somewhere. So quantize is probably one of my favorite mod processors. Yeah. You haven't even tried those filter profiles yet. Yeah, I usually savor all of these myself for a little bit, but this sounds unbelievable. Sounds really good. I don't even know where we in the pads. Okay, there's so many. Even if you blend these, with whatever kind of effect that they have. Let me see. I hear, okay, a stereo cross delay. I hear it playing. I'm playing sideways. My speakers are on my left, but I heard how the sounds were kind of clashing together, and This, for example, would be amazing to have somewhere else, and it comes from a preset. So what I love about the structure of how these synthesizers by KORG are made is that if the stereo cross delay is really creating that clash that you hear, like, this is great, but I wish I could do this on another sound I have. You don't really need to reprogram everything or learn how it's done. You can take the preset Choirscape and you can just put it somewhere else, and it will give you that, like if you had a pedal, which is an external piece of hardware, and utilize that for giving an effect to a sound you have. It's no longer one complete closed box, a sealed box as a performance in itself, but as probably because you have it, the presets are everywhere. You can save a preset for motion sequence. You can recall it somewhere else. You can do it for Chaos Pad. You can do it for the effects and everything else. And it really adds to a lot of it, for sure. Yeah, there's so much that everything can do here. I mean, this is, again, I'm gonna navigate through. I have no idea where we're going. So, pads. All right. Some of the sounds I know, so I'm gonna skip. Dinosaurs. I don't know these. All right. So for example, I've played a D here, and I can guarantee you that my Atom speakers, where they are, they completely blasted me with sub lows, and Now, if somebody hears these and goes like, that's amazing, it's gotta be, this is a 1-layer 4 oscillator sound. So we're in kind of a monopoly land because of the oscillators, but they've put them through a MS-20 low pass and an SCM pass, MP, which is doing, let me see how they're blending these things in. So oscillator 1 and 4 are going to B, and oscillator 2 and 3 are going to A, and then the ring modulator is also going to A. So there's 2 filters, 4 oscillators plus ring mod. The ring mod and 2 oscillators go to a filter, the other ones go to the other one. And I don't even want to know about the drifting, which I go lengths in the masterclass to explain how this is really the core of it. Next gen analog modeling. Well, there's actually no voice variation, so that's probably why it feels so precise somehow. Let me go and see the performance page here. Dinosaurs. Let me see how this is. Oh, it's a polyphonic. It's a unison, 3 voices. Okay, 14 cents. Yeah, so part is the unison, part is the drift. Could be the drive of, there's a drive in the amp, which is also peculiar because it's, driving the filter stages into the amp. And I'm curious as to what, the VCA type is linear. I don't know if there's, the VCA is modeled as well. So you don't want any model, you want to have it mathematically correct, you keep it on linear. But the VCA kind of behavior is also part of why an analog synthesizer or a DCO kind of analog synthesizer, depends, hybrid synth was sounding. So you've got a monopoly, you've got the MS-20 Odyssey Mini, you've got a Pro type. So these are all VCA types. Now, the oscillators are certainly part of why a synth sounds the way it sounds. The MS-20 Sawtooth doesn't sound like the Mini Moog Sawtooth. The filters are a huge part, but a lot of the time you have a completely linear VCA, but the old unit were not linear in the VCA, and that little bit of a variation, especially when pushed, gives you that. So, this one is, I'm gonna play this D key again because we're gonna get washed by reverb, okay? Ready? Okay. I kind of felt my eardrums sinking in. Nice. Okay, so, this is just dinosaurs. I don't even remember the sheer number of patches. Like, how many patches does these have? I think hundreds for sure. So. And here I'm curious to know, like these mod knobs, how did they program them? So I see detune plus minus plus, attack decay minus, layer B volume, and reverse effects. Okay, so reverse effects are 100. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, you hear these presets as a sound designer and you go like, why wouldn't I thought about that? Simple as this, right? So simple. Let's try the other stuff. Attack decay minus. Okay. So say, for example, I want to have it a little bit more responsive. We got 2 layers here, so it's probably okay. We got a filter B as well. And I'm just going with the tempo that this effect is deciding. It just kind of sucked me into playing on that tempo because it's just like, it's ensemble style, right? On preset. This stream is all about preaching how, not preaching just how good this synthesizer is. I said many times in over the course of the masterclass, it's like the people who've done presets here, in my opinion, all of a sudden in 2025, they care about making patches for this synthesizer. And the same happens for the mod wave, the wave state. It's in the line, like the patches from somebody who's created patches and presets does it for a living a little bit. It's not my job, but I do that as well. I can tell when there's a product whose presets are like placeholders, or if there's something that you hear, it's like these people really wanted it to sing. It's really like they took their time. You don't stumble on these kind of patches when you're creating them if you do sound design. So to me, after years of very dry new coming synthesizers and stuff, I was like, are there out there people who care about this again? Which I find fun. I do care. I know a lot of people do care, but it's such a beautiful thing to hear these patches because yes, the synth is powerful, but the patches they've done, I can hear that they wanted them to sound this way, to be musical, to be playable. It's not just like a daily gig or something. At least that's my opinion. You might think different, but I dare you sometimes find other, synths that have powerful engines, yet their presets are kind of lackluster. And you might be fine with that. I'm fine with that sometimes because I don't care. I just create my own. But here you're like, wait, I might want to use this. I might want to use this. Just a little bit of a tweak and things work. So, I mean, even in the strings themselves. Okay, well, there's very dry stuff, for example, like this one, which we can fix. Hear how nosy that is? How nasal that is. Let's try and make something. Kind of thinking about changing key for some just out. I'm in this G minor thing today. I don't know, I'm floating there. I just tweaked something without even honestly knowing where I was going with it. And just because now the filters are a little bit more kind of like opening up, but they're not in my face, they just sound unbelievable. I want to do portamento on it just because even the portamento itself, which I don't know, maybe you have it. So the effects are also very good on it and high quality. Hey Marco, how are you doing? Super impressed with the factory presets. I agree that they put an awful amount of effort into them. Do you agree? I mean, right? If somebody like has never played synthesizers, they might just pass by and say like, wow, this thing has pretty interesting stuff and leave. But if you've played synths long enough and if you've gone through making your own patches, finding your own sounds, or trying to really squeeze the juice of a synthesizer you own, and if you've done it, you know, if it's part of your job to do presets for stuff that you get paid for, you realize that these people really wanted to do. There's no way around that. As I said, you don't come out with just a sound like this by randomly yawning through your day and go like, oh, I cannot wait to be home. This is good stuff. It's just so good. I was saying even the portamento styles, or portamento, which is how you should say that, is really like not necessarily linear. Well, you have a constant rate, you have a constant time, so these are linear. There's just two constants that you're keeping track of. But there's vintage mini linear exponential and vintage MS-20, which means that it's gonna cover the type of portamento that you would have on a vintage MS-20, which is by far not perfect, right? But let me do this. Let me try and get one of these things to go, but I didn't even know where I wanted to go. I forgot where I was. like what? But it's so organic. It's just drifting away, and we could use note pitches, or we could use my velocity to kind of trigger filter stages. We could quantize them with LFOs. It could get very moving with the parameters that we have at hand. While two notes are just drifting slowly to get into this minor chord thing, but you don't know it's gonna land there, until you kind of feel it, because it's like, oh, wait a second, I can vibe now with it, but things are happening on top of it. So the effects are very good on it and high quality. I can totally hear that in a movie soundtrack. Thank you very much. So, now the producers obviously watching this stream are gonna go like, yeah, this has to be a movie. So they're gonna call Nolan and are gonna say, dude, stop, make any kind of movie just so we can fit this. But you're absolutely right. So sometimes I actually get asked these questions from students of mine that are, when I'm teaching piano and keyboards, but they're not strictly, I have two now, more than I had last year, that are not about piano and keyboards I'm gonna play with bands, are more piano and keyboards I want to compose, and mostly for soundtracks, whether it's TV, whether it's movies, but like soundtracks. And the question I get a lot is, which of your keyboards is the most, or which are the most movie or video game soundtrack? Like, which ones are the ones that don't sound like I'm playing in a band? Honestly, they can be all of them that I have here. I think if you're in a band on stage and you're playing, the sounds you have are gonna be defining you because you're on stage somehow. So the same sound might not be, but it's also true that using something like this in a band, these can be 2 or 3 of the sounds that are enough to make an underscoring track, right? So the multi-poly is cinematic. That's unfortunately how I got asked about it. I kind of made the question sound a little bit better, but it is, which is the most cinematic synthesizer you have? And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, when you're in your phone and there's cinematic mode. What is cinematic mode? Well, it just looks like Hollywood. It's like, what is that even supposed to mean? But the multi-poly is cinematic. The mod wave is as cinematic as that. The wave state is as well, but so is the Nord lead, so is the Prophet 12, so is the Roland Juno. A lot of people hate my DW8000. For in some regard, you're right. It's like a synthesizer that's very edgy, but the DW8000 is one of the most amazing simple sound designing platforms that I have. And it's true. I kind of use a couple sounds from it all the time. But I do use a couple sounds of it all the time. So, but anyway, it is cinematic for sure, So, do you know if you can quantize the key tracking? We should try. Let's get a normal pitch. Normal pitch meaning, I have no idea. Something whose key tracking is very easy to kind of feel. I get tons of like sort of video game stuff. I actually, in the masterclass, I've played, I think, two, probably this time just 2 themes from old video games, from 2 amazing video games that I loved to play as a kid. And I was born in 1981, so you can kind of gauge where I was with these. I have an Amiga, so I'm not really a console guy. So... And it just came to me because some of the patches were dry enough. You see some of these. Okay, not this one. Like this one is unbelievably good. I want to meet the people who did these presets and just say like, stop. I mean, continue, but stop. Because this is as simple as that, but it kicks, right? It's 2 layers, total of 6 oscillators. You can have 16 oscillators here. It's 4 times 4, right? Is it 4, 8, 12, 16? It is. So, yeah. And if you LFO fast enough, these LFOs are fast enough that you can kind of hear an oscillator feel like 2 pitches. But that's a trick you shouldn't use because I have it in some of my patches, so it's patent pending. But it's true. No, I mean, when you have very fast and precise LFOs, you can actually do that. And you got to do that. Sometimes you ought to do that when you got 3 oscillators and you want to kind of have that higher 5th, for example, right? Perfect 12th or something right there. And you don't have it, then you LFO through it, for example, and just behind you can hear it. So can we quantize key tracking? I have no idea. I mean, this is very like, so glad you like that. So Jumpstar, it's like, can you quantize key tracking? So why would you want to quantize key tracking? But just because we can, probably that's the answer. But that would be an example of a synthesizer that just simply can modulate anything with anything. And I've said that many times in the masterclass. So let me see, maybe lead or something. Night life sync. No, sync is gonna be. Okay, this could be that. I don't hear. Okay, this one isn't really key tracking that much. This could be that. I want tons of reverb. I'm getting carried away by trying stuff, so I'm gonna keep going. Okay, well this could be that, but we need tons of more. Okay, let's key track this to oblivion. So we're into what do we want to do? Like key tracking filter stuff, for example. That's usual, right? What we're gonna do here: filter mod, key track. Just that. Let me just crank it. Okay, I mean this is pretty clear, right? So Ethan is harassing everybody. Ethan, stop. Ethan's my bot. So do you know? Okay, so nice to get a glissando instead of a portamento. Oh, okay. Well, the thing you do here is like to modulate stuff is very simple. You meant key tracking in the sense of like quantize that, like the actual pitch of the note. Okay, I kind of thought it different. I thought the key tracking for full filter mod, but it's actually if you do it key tracking on, can we do it on pitch? We got drift. Let me see, pitch page, slope. It's probably the slope thing. If we sloped it fast enough, could happen. Now you got me curious to hear. Can I key track? Like, can I use this as a destination? It's very, very simple to do this. To modulate something, you just go mod next. And this will add a new modulation, but it says move a target knob or press enter to modulate the current parameter. Because something I got when I told some of the people in my Patreon, when I said I'm gonna do a multi-poly masterclass, they said like, yeah, okay, how do you find that? And I said, well, it's not really blending with all the instruments I have. Like if I had to buy in my setup, I would probably buy a mod wave first or a wave state, and then I would take the multi-poly, but not because it's not good, but because I have a lot of subtractive-ish synthesizers, and I am more open to wavetable-based stuff at the moment, And I remember we talked about that. Some of them said, well, I also heard they said that it's a lot of menu diving when you want to operate the multi-poly. And I said, well, there's a lot of menus for sure, but I don't really think it's a menu diving synthesizer, although there's been tons of synths. For example, I have a Prophet 12. A lot of people said it's a beautiful synth, but it's a menu diving thing, To me, menu diving things are, for example, the Octatrack, the Electrons. That is a menu diving kind of instrument, okay? So mostly I believe about that having being possible on drum machines. It's probably me. The Tempest, the DSI Tempest as well, can be menu diving, although you have a lot there. So I would say the Octatrack to me is kind of like the epitome of that. Because if you don't even have overbridge, for example, you gotta be in the menus, But these synths, I don't think that. So for example, modulations, like to modulate something, it needs so much time. You don't need so much time. You just go mod next, and it says move a target knob or press enter to modulate current parameter. What is the current parameter? It's the one I had highlighted 2 seconds ago, which was key track. So I'm just going to press enter because most of the time you don't have knobs to move to tell the synth that's the target. So where's the key track knob? Well, it's actually here. So I could do shift and key track and it will work. But I had it, so I'm just going to go enter. And it says like what kind of destination you want. I want whatever. I want, this mod knob 4, which is already assigned to something I know. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a lot in the negative when we go up. So this could change, right? Okay, so it's not what you asked, jump start, but it works. It's redefining that in real time. So, okay, I kind of wanted to make a patch now about that because it's kind of getting more expressive. Like it's tilting the filter for example, it could be moving with an LFO so that you have some higher keys that sometimes are bright, sometimes the lower keys are bright. For example, if you have an arpeggiator or a motion sequence, that'd be cool. That could be an assignment I'm giving you. Like, try and do that. Try and do that. So, but on the pitch thing, so now what we need to do is we got these, okay, filter A cut off. We got, mod knob 4. The source is the filter A key tracking. Okay. Let me try and see if simply we have it here in the mods. So there's speech LFO, amp key tracking, filter key tracking, filter key tracking. Let me see, because this is all of them, right? So pitch envelope. I think what probably what you asked about pitching and glissando would be. Okay, so it could be step pitch that I just saw, and it could also be used on the step pitch, but also on the shape lane for that specific pitch, so that you get a little bit more intensity on a random factor on a shape-based step. The shape lane, right? It's kind of like specific dedicated single trigger LFOs or waveforms that will shape the step. So that could be that, but that is more of a step thing. But that could sound very wicked and kind of weird. Another one could be to do what you said, probably with the pitch envelope, probably the other way around, so that you use key tracking or velocity to probably no, but velocity would be different than what you asked. So yeah, I'm tripping with this one. This one's fine. I'm probably thinking it would. Does it know the? Hold on. Does it know? Can we? Obviously, we can change the portamento page, for sure. So we can do that. Here, let me see that. So I was here. We go portamento on. We have the time. We go mod next. So we got the portamento time. So within that system, you could have it so that we got velocity. It could be. Let me change this with a different source. Pitch band. See, okay, here. Mod damper, pitch band, velocity exponential, velocity gate, note on trigger, note number. Step. Okay, I'm reading what you wrote. Sounds a bit like jar like S in oxygen. Step pitch could be that, but it will get weirder than jar, and then he will go like, how did they do that? No, I know what you mean. Yeah, it has got the little spice. I think note number could do that, because that will be kind of the number of the note that you're doing, or not trigger plus damp. No. I think note number could be something to investigate, because at that moment now your keyboard has the note itself is going to define how you are, gliding. And I'm thinking it will be kind of stepped there. But if you do a mod processor taking a note number and doing This is good. This is getting me good. If you do a smooth or curve probably, or even offset based on, for example, yeah, on the note number, that could work. That could work because then based on that, there might be an LFO on the pitch that is getting offset or curved or scaled, but not scaled. I think it's more of a smooth, or even something simple as sum could work, that is taking the note number and doing something with it through a mod processor and then handling it to either the portamento time, but actually to pitch itself, maybe to the envelope of the pitch. Okay, we got it. Yeah, maybe no number. I mean, certainly will get interesting. I don't even know. There's probably patches that do this. So, I mean, there's... You got tons of classic sounds, so which are probably the ones I'm the least interested in, as you can tell. I'm like, oh, okay, they sound amazing, but it's like, okay, well, this is we're getting somewhere. You gotta forgive I don't know why there's a Dorian vibe in the air today, and I love this. Let me see what kind of modulations they dialed in. Okay. Let me think about this. So this is one oscillator, space cat. Okay. So now we're in wavetable. Okay. And this is getting, I love to investigate why things sound the way they do. So we've got a noise oscillator and noise generator and oscillator 2 on layer A, but it's doing X mod. So X mod is doing oscillator 1 on 2, 3, and 4. So this means that 1 has a reason to exist, or did they forget it here? Oh, turn it off. Okay, let me see. All sorts of organic stuff, but I'm just getting carried away, obviously, by the sound. There's no program here, so there's noise. Okay, noise is it modulating something? I don't think there's no morphing. There's no pitch envelope. So they're doing X mod, but the oscillator 1 is off. So it's probably sort of like something that. Let's try this. Now we're talking. Okay, I mean the patch was beautiful before, and it sounds like I'm making it better. If anything, I'm just making it worse. But it's dialing a reverb that we kind of like a little bit better. Now, yeah, okay, well, you're playing two notes, you're playing three notes, you're changing something. Do you realize the amount of content, of emotional support, and it's really like of emotional support that this will give some sort of motion picture? It's just like we gotta think as musicians, most of the time we are overdoing like crazy, especially if you're coming from a musician stage kind of performance thing where you're playing, you know what you do, you know what you're gonna do, but there's an amount of audience, retraction that you want to have. There's that feedback thing. You know how to drive a solo because you want people, even if you're going a little bit nuts on it, to kind of clap at the end. You cannot do that on a movie, on a video game, or anything like that. So it took me, I think the good part, I think the reason why I got back into the game writing stuff on a professional level after I had been in bands for so long was that I had this hiatus, this pause, this break in between where I was doing a lot of studio work and placing keyboards, studio, for studio reasons. Like a band would come in, they had no keyboards player. They would say, okay, I want to, we need some keyboards. Can you put them down? And it was a studio-based environment where you were laying tracks for the record, for the mix. You were not playing like you were not like maximizing firepower for it. So thinking back to it, if, had I gone to be young and bold and, if I had the luck, which I didn't have, had I had the luck of being into some, nice game production, a lot of producers would have said, dude, calm down. This is too much. Half of this is enough for, half of the movie. And so sounds like this are, come and go to some people, but really, this is more than you need, and it's very hard to find such a sound and shape something into it, and if you start searching for this sound, or if you have to make it from scratch, that's not the day you're gonna compose. That's the day you're gonna sound design. I don't have the energy certainly to come up with a sound like this, for example, and then say, okay, well, now we write it, because the good part of the afternoon is probably gone into shaping the reverbs, the effects, the atmospherics. So there's a lot of value. These are not like, oh, presets, boring, you're cheating. First off, this was not how the preset started. I just made it worse. And I just kind of clamped on the attack, right? So it is easy to overdo it, right? It is, absolutely. Like, again, a lot of people come from musician backgrounds. So there's bands, there's live playing, and there's that energy level that you want to keep up. You can't stay, you don't have to overdo it on the keyboard, but you gotta have, your own stage, right? So unless it's a piano recital or something, you're like completely stone cold. But usually you want to see somebody on stage who's alive, who's kind of like translating the energy to you. You get into the movie game stuff, and even a 30-second, 29-second commercial break, it's like, dude, it's not you, it's the commercial, And so after a while, you kind of get into the vibe of it. But being young and being from the band environment, that's not very good for gauging and kind of pitching, let's say, a score type of thing, Not even if it's a TV commercial, it's kind of like you got to pace it. You can't just go all on it. So, I mean, this is just another one. Where were you? This is Scattergrain. Now I'm going alphabetically, so it doesn't mean 17 candles. I think I've played these in the... This is as vintage as it gets. You hear how they closed it in? It's not as stereo as the other stuff. Then you change a patch and you might end on. Okay, this one's new. hear how they modulated this. Okay, that's velocity, so. I think maybe it's related to this. Okay, look at how it's falling down. I hope you can see that. Hear that kind of like a snare sound when the drummer is kind of letting the snare sounds play. You know, I'm playing my multipolar while listening now. It got me in the studio. Nice. Imagine who doesn't own it, how mad they're gonna be. It's like, I gotta hit the store. You know, I gotta go on whatever website it's going on. I'm not getting absolutely anything. I mean, if you come to my Patreon and subscribe and you buy my master classes and stuff, obviously I get revenue off it. But if you whatever go and buy a KORG of any sort, you can buy, you know, whatever you want. You can buy guitar. I don't make any money out of anything that you're buying. I'm just saying this is a good musical instrument, you know. So I don't even want to get into how much it costs, because coming from the late 80s, 90s, and having to buy like stuff that costed 4 or 5 times this to get into the league of, oh, now I got the sounds for making something professional, is just unbelievable. I mean, I know money doesn't grow on trees. We're very money conscious. I'm absolutely money conscious. I mean, I cannot hold money for the life of me in my hands. They just go. But because I probably never went past 9 years old, you know, but I understand when people kind of close on my Patreon and say, like, I need a little bit of a break. I'm having issues with my job, or, you know, it's all fine. We're in these all together. But the price at which they've placed these things is more than fair. And I'm not saying KORG is the only one. I'm just saying the era in which we're living is very fortunate, and we should still kind of, you know, try and say, okay, this is it's honoring musical instruments because they sound good. They're not just plastic made out there. We heard it, right? You know, and but they're affordable compared to what we used to have. Like, you know, I don't even want to say names or numbers because I'm getting scared. If my parents are watching this, I'm gonna give them PTSD from memories of when they were piling up money and saying, like, if we sum Christmas and my birthday and the end of year graduation and then when I will get 18, it's like, dude, you're 12. Maybe we can buy this keyboard. You know, we don't really need to do that now to have something that sounds great. You know, before you had General MIDI stuff when I was growing up. Horrible. The analog synths were too expensive. The General MIDI stuff was expensive. It just sounded good. You know, I hated that. Let me try and hear what they did with, we were trying this impact. Okay, I'll try this. Let me hold this because this could be good. Let me go here. Let me go random. Also, I don't know if you know, but you can latch the arpeggiator, but you can also hold the keyboard. So if you hold the keyboard, the latching becomes a little bit easier. So, right, we don't have, you see how it holds? Here the Meanie. Can I say Moog? Here the Moog one. Let's drive these. I like to experiment. I'm not going to turn these down, otherwise you can't hear me. I like to experiment with the effects they've put, because sometimes I see them at like 3%, and I go like, all right, let's try 74 or 100. Here, this, for example, just gives that the grain thing. Let's try and give it an inverse feel. Sometimes it's like, how do you make it feel inverse? Let's try that. And now this one, okay, I like both. This one's a little bit faster, a little bit more hectic. The other one was so underwater that I totally love that. What we could do is we could have an LFO modulate the attack time, or the envelope intensity, or both somehow, so that we can kind of get this lengthening and moving. I'm a lot into these tempo free thing because these patches are kind of inspiring to go there. And there's a lot of soundtracks that are going there. As I said, from Tenet on, a lot of people are like, this is too musical. We need something weird. They just want to capture the vibe more than just have something symphonic, So this could be that. Let me read the chat. I have to go, unfortunately, visit my dad in hospital. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope your dad gets better. Really enjoyed these. I will look into your masterclass. Absolutely. Thank you very much for checking it out. Have a great day. Tell your dad that, it's got to get better soon. And I know visiting hospitals is not the best. So I hope I gave you some vibes for it. Hold strong. Take care. Thank you very much for being here. Absolutely. You know where to find me, Discord and masterclasses and Passion, whatever. The links are everywhere. I'm bored. Don't just, just go. All right. See you soon, hopefully. All right. So I want to do this. I want to take an LFO for what did we say? Filter A LFO, right? No, I want to actually take the filter A LFO that is a triangle, okay? And I want to modulate the attack time of this. So we're going to go mod next. Okay, we're that. What are we going to use? We're going to use filter A LFO. Right. Okay, so we got an intensity here that is, I don't want to use an int mod. Let me see, maybe influencing this. Let's hear that. 1 hertz, maybe. I think it's doing that somehow. I mean, it's also doing another thing which is more typical, but Okay, now I'm doing two things. I'm taking also the envelope amount, the intensity on the filter envelope intensity on the cutoff, on the filter itself, but I'm modulating that. So it's more or less influenced based on where the filter A LFO is, which also has an intensity of its own. So it's doing that anyway, but it's, yeah, it's nice. Okay, see how it's slightly modulating? I think actually this patch can be a great example for something people ask me, like, why would you want to have a mini in spite of a monopoly filter and stuff? Well, there's one of the main reasons is how it resonates at low frequencies. So the Moog style is very musical because it doesn't blow everything away when it's resonating a lot in the low register of lower octaves, while others do. So maybe you want it, maybe you don't want it. But this one, we can stay very low, crank the resonance up. Other sounds would break up. So we can try. I'm going to switch to the monopoly filter. We're going to hear, probably it's going to be very different. You got to admit, this is getting science fiction 1960s. I love this. Okay, now I'm gonna change from mini to multi-poly. Monopoly, I keep saying my reverse. Here how instantly that started breaking up. You find the right balance and you hit record and you let go of it, 10 minutes later. And then you go like, all right, I gotcha. And then we're going to talk about it. Because things like this, it's not just about saving the patch. It's about, I know what I played in an arpeggio, but it's like, it's droning so nicely. I'm glad I'm recording this. Oh, hey, Plotry. Nice to see you. Welcome. Now I'm gonna try and introduce syncing just because. Okay, ready? We're gonna open the stereo mix and filters so we can pan things around. Okay, I wanna just kind of slightly move the oscillators. Okay, and an amazing thing is this. Now, say I'm hearing a little bit too much 150 hertz or something. We just go to the main EQ. I'm gonna do it without volume so you can hear me. And we're just taking that mid one. I'm gonna go like 170, 160, whatever. It could be a 200. So maybe I'm gonna go higher, like 190. And we're gonna go. I'm gonna kind of drop in here. You see, there was just some EQ in here, but okay. Well, I could have used the low, which it was kind of unused. This was where? About 380, 40, right? Okay, let's keep it here. So the low band wasn't being used. It had a dB gain of 0. So I'm gonna go peak. I'm gonna take 200, and I'm gonna go a little bit lower Q, like a wider Q, and then I'm gonna drop it down. Let's hear if it does what I need. You hear it? That 180 hertz, that was a little bit kind of in the way, and it was kind of masking things around. It's very easy, and it's it's an EQ. Obviously, it works. It's a digital one, right? Let's try that. I'm gonna try EQ on and off, just so we hear what it does. Hear how nice that is? It takes a little bit of time for the EQ to kick in because, you know, it's kind of reverb and stuff and tails that were just propagating. It's an EQ. So sometimes I get that question of like, well, do you input your notes, your like sounds in a rough kind of way, and then you know you're going to mix them, you're going to tweak them? I usually never do that when I compose. So it's important that I know the tools this way, that I know that I have, for example, an EQ here. I'm not even gonna save the patch. I'm just gonna go here, tweak it until it sounds fine in the mix that I'm composing on. I'm gonna hit record on Nuendo or Bitwig Studio and just go, you know, or Studio One, whatever. You know, I'm using mainly these three, and just go and have edit, just record it that way. Because if it sounds fitting for the mix, it's fitting for the mix, you know. That's why you're monitoring in your studio. I'm not sending tracks to somebody else. So I don't track it masked and muffled and weird because I'm gonna mix it afterwards. And I don't even reach for an EQ because, truth be told, sometimes I can't really move a lot in here. And I don't want to reach for the keyboard and then for the synthesizer and then for the keyboard and back and forth, because it just loses it. So I have that thing is tracking, for example, this drone. I'm gonna do it from the EQ here. If I'm lucky enough to remember, I'm gonna save the patch. If I don't, it's just in there. I can still tweak it, but it's not sounding fine. So, okay, let's try and find another sound. Then we're gonna, what is it? All right, time flies when you're playing stuff. That's for sure. Okay, let's remove the hold and go here, shape blocks. I think I was just going alphabetically in the end. For some reason, I see names and I go like, I don't know. Oh, this is a split thing. Okay. How do you do splits on these keyboards? Some people know like, oh, well, you don't have the octaves to do that. Well, sometimes you do, or you want just to know do that. In performance page, you just go shift next, and you keep going, and then you'll see that there are velocity and keyboard zones. So you can split 4 zones up in velocity or in key number, like what note you're playing, or both. So here you can see that, you know, after B3, there's actually a higher part, which is that's here, right? Here, this is the other pad. Just plays that, and it's pitchy and it's nice, and it's just two what is it, like two octaves and just one octave for the lead, right? Anything goes. Let me try something else. Sheen. Okay, this is more classic tune, so let me go performance. Let me go. Where are we? Okay, vocal we haven't tried. Oh, sequences. Some people might want to hear sequences, probably. Let's try that. There's gonna be weird stuff. I'm just gonna go random here. Lightning bugs. Layers of shaper, okay. Okay. Now we're talking. Let's do... Let me think about that. Let's do, because I'm gravitating because just the keyboard ends on C, or like G, C. Let's try like a E flat minor thing. Because it gotta be Dorian. Today, it's the day I do that major 6 thing. So, okay, I like this. I want to change from overb. I just want reverb ball, and I want to get to. Okay, well, reverse verb. Let's do. This is kind of nice. I love this. You can get crazy on grainy. I want delay as well. More tape echoes. And this is completely off time though. What was I playing before? That maybe. And it's gonna be Dorian anyway. It's gotta end it there because that's the day we do that. So let me try that. Space, bleeps. Okay. These are the bleeps, okay, bass. Pad. So this is now the mod knobs are just a mixer. Okay, I'm liking that. So we got 3. Holy crap! This got 3 layers, 1 oscillator each. What if we layer rotate? Okay. So now what we're doing is we're rotating the layers. Each note I'm playing, or it sounds like you hear it's rotating the layers. And it's going forward. We could even do backward for random. How many notes per layer? We're gonna do 2. Let's try 3. Let's try 3. Now we're clipping like crazy because I'm feeding things back into itself, but so this is the bleeps. Layer C, layer B is nothing. Oh, that's bass, okay. It just depends on how I'm hitting the notes because they're rotating. So it's not exactly like fancy, but it doesn't matter how I'm playing. I just have to randomly end up on the layer that's doing the bleeps. That's what's making it sound like that. Alright. Okay, this is better without rotation, honestly. Let me sync notes on everything. Right. Because if we're not syncing notes, it will probably, we're gonna instantiate something and generate its own LFOs. If you sync notes, you're actually having the notes jump on the phase moment, the instant the LFO is at, rather than starting another one from zero, right? Okay. And then Dorian. We said that. And then we could chord it actually. Okay, that's more of the effect I want. You hear it's kind of reversing. The bleeps are a little bit loud though, so I want to kind of go here to layer C volume and shift it down. I'm not letting that go of the E flat. Bass is a little bit loud, but this one I want up. Okay, let's try and get that a little bit. Quite getting that sound. I kind of paved myself in the corner. It's no longer playing what I wanted to play. Is it the delay? No. I kind of flattened down this sound. All right, let's go on. I completely removed the element of the bleeps because I think on layer C I made the sustain too high and it wasn't bleeping around. There we go. So this would bring it back, but it doesn't matter now. It's gone. It is gone. So okay, this is another sequence. Let's try this. Okay, now I have these E flats, so I gotta stay here. Okay, even here, if I want to do what I was doing, I think I have to sync notes, at least with some of the pulsing one, but since I don't know which they are, I'm gonna sync all of them so that the performance kind of going to there. And the sync notes for all of the layers in the motion sequences are on, so this is fine. I'm just playing one-handed, one note with my thumb. I'm using my other fingers to just turn the mod knobs up and down. You know, whoever programmed these as well, this is a whole chord progression in a sequence. It just works. It took me a little bit to realize it wasn't me. It was actually the sequence. So we got that, you know. I mean, we could go on for hours. We've been going on for hours. So this is the multi-poly, absolutely. And there's many more functions. There's many more sounds for sure. But it's an instrument that has equally good sounds for your bare bones, what you need for example, something that any sort of like virtual analog synth needs, but it's got soundscapes for days. Remember, these also have digital wave tables and wave shaping and stuff like that. So there you have it. Check out my Patreon if you want, and you'll find the masterclass on the multi-poly that just got out. And it's going to be 20 episodes, and it's actually almost like shy, maybe 10 minutes shy of 5 hours. So there's everything in here. We talk about everything it does. We experiment with sounds and different functions. It is really a fascinating machine, and it sits at the top of the most recent virtual analog devices because of how it can do. What it can do and how it does it. So there it is. I hope you have a good time. People that are rewatching these, you're going to have a good time. And we'll see each other soon. That was a very fun, very nice live stream. And I hope you people are doing fine, that everybody's having a good time, despite the weather not being super fun here. But we'll see each other soon. As you know, this is where it ends. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. It's been fascinating. Ciao. Right on, Pottery. That was it. Ciao.